What should you do when your ball python is shedding? Now, shedding is one of those things that a lot of people might have trouble with if they don't really know how to best help their ball python have the best shed possible. Luckily for you, we're about to get into it. Ball pythons come from a climate where humidity is generally quite high. Now, I've mapped out the humidity across their range from weather data shooting back to 1985. So if you look at this data, the humidity doesn't really drop below 50%. So your enclosure that your ball python is in, the relative humidity of your enclosure should be no lower than 50%. Ideally, I would probably say 60% plus, upwards up to like nearly 80, 85, 90% humidity. In that sort of ballpark, 60% plus, that's a good range for the humidity of your ball python's tank to be. When a ball python is shedding, there's a layer of fluid that forms between two separate layers of keratin in the skin to get ready for them to press their noses, start their shed, and separate those layers and peel off the upper layer of that skin and reveal the nice new shiny layer beneath. But the formation of that fluid has a high cost in terms of hydration for that ball python. So the reason that humidity needs to be high for them, you get something called respiratory water loss, and as you breathe out, you're losing hydration to the environment. So if the environment is particularly dry, you're going to lose more and more hydration to your environment as you breathe. So with ball pythons, if their environment is too dry for them, they can lose hydration as they breathe. And the higher the humidity, the more you hedge your bets against reducing that loss of hydration. Again, water bowls and manually drinking for these ball pythons is a big player in making sure that they hydrate properly. Now what you'll find, and what I found personally, is that if I leave my ball python's water bowl for more than a few days, the ball python will actually not drink and hold out until I change that water out for fresh, clean water. So these ball pythons do actually prefer fresh, clean water. So to make sure that our ball pythons hydrate and drink as much as possible, we should change our ball pythons' water daily. These people that do their water bowls for ball pythons once a week, that's bloody horrendous. Don't do that. Do it once a day. Keep it nice and fresh and clean, and your ball python will drink as much as they need. Do that whilst making sure that the humidity is 60% plus, and you're gearing up to hydrate your ball python as much as possible. What you can also do is give them a humid hide. Now that is a cave or a hide or a big tub with a hole cut in it, stuffed with moss, so that it's like a really high humidity hide. What you'll find in the wild, their burrows are like upwards of nearly 100% humidity. So if we give them a little humid hide for their ball python to go into and retreat to when they're in times of shed, that's their best possible bet at reducing that loss of hydration. The other part of this is the objects in their enclosure that allow them to shed properly. Now the process that starts is a ball python will press its nose against something that is rough, split the end of their shed, and as they move forward it will peel off them like a sock. Like you're pulling like a sock off your foot, it will peel inside out and unravel down them as they move out of that old shed. But they need rough objects in their environment to start that process. So if everything in your environment is really smooth and doesn't have any rough texture to it, they might struggle to get that shed started. So a good tip is to have some cork or rocks, something that's a little bit rough for them to actually start that shed, split that. And if you have lots of decor that allows them to go in and out of things, tight tubes and things like that, for them to press their bodies against and really get grip on that old shed to hold it, or at least provide friction against as they crawl out of it. All of those things together will put you in the best position to give your ball python the best shed possible. If you've got a screen top enclosure, what I would actually do is double down on that humid hide and make sure you provide that. What I would do is deepen that substrate layer. That will lock in humidity in the substrate for far longer, and as the environment ages, it will release humidity into the environment. Some people like to cover up bits of screen top to reduce ventilation to keep humidity, but that makes a lot of stagnant air and you really want good ventilation. So don't really try to do that, but I would lean into deeper substrates and humid hides before I start removing ventilation. Because ventilation is just as key as humidity, and you've got to weigh those two up together. I hope these tips help you help your ball python have the best shed possible. If you want any more ball python tips and tricks, there are many guides on this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.